Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Growth Execution Podcast. We are here every week with great founders, entrepreneurs, people here to give you the ideas and insights that are going to help you to launch, build, and grow your business. I'm delighted to be joined this week by Cantey. She's a business coach, creator of the Vitality program. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, the Business Vitality Framework. Yes, thank you so much for having me, Mal.
A genuine pleasure, and super excited to hear about the framework as we go through as well. But first of all, we're always interested here in how you got into launching your own business. And so how did that work for you?
It was kind of a feeling that I had within myself that just I knew I wanted to be able to do more, give back more. I had a lot of untraditional banking roles over the years, over 20 years. And from those, I was exposed to a lot of boardrooms, a lot of strategic conversations, a lot of strategic planning. And from that, there's just a lot of different tools that a lot of the successful leaders use over and over again. So I knew of one of the tools, and I've used that as kind of my lead out of corporate America. And within the past 6 months, I've decided, why limit it to just one of these tools and begin to share other lessons learned and other tools that are available. So that's kind of where the Business Vitality Framework came from. But just leaving corporate, I knew that I wanted to do more and give back. And this is my way of doing that.
Fantastic. And what was there a kind of moment that you just kind of realized you were going to go for it? And what was that moment and how, if it was?
Yeah, so subconsciously, if we go back 20 years prior to when I took this leap, I knew that in my 40s, I was going to leave corporate America. I've had seen different things that have popped up just with other people in corporate. And I guess it ingrained in me that, at a certain point, you begin to see downsizing. And I don't know, it was just very much in the back of my mind. And so I knew that I had a limited time, or I put a limited time on myself, and knew around my 40s, it was going to be time to make that change. So subconsciously that was there for at least 20 years. And then paying attention to meetings and am I being able to create the influence that I want to in these situations? And, everything doesn't go 100% all the time, but I felt like there was a better opportunity for me to serve in a different way, and a better opportunity for the folks that were already around the table for them to take it. And they didn't need me so much. So it just felt like it was time. And a lot of just different factors kind of weighed in. I'm forever grateful for everything they gave me. And I just know that, they're doing a great job, and I get to kind of pursue the next thing for me.
Do your thing as well. Fantastic. And I know one of the kind of key things for you is about kind of helping leaders to think differently. How do you see them all thinking the same? Or what is it that you need to change?
There's a lot of different thoughts. I've got a group that I'm working with right now, and we tended to be focused on what the problem is, and they want to make excuses, or they want to focus on all the reasons why it's not going to work. And we really need to shift the way they're thinking if they're going to continue to grow themselves, because you got to grow yourself to grow the organization. And from there, we needed to take these problem mindsets and shift it into solutions. Like, give me every possible solution that you can think of, and there is no wrong answer. But what it can do is begin to trigger the juices around the table of like another solution that we weren't aware of. And truly, I believe the answers are inside of the folks sitting around that table. We just need to be patient and shift the mindset in this particular instance from problems into solutions.
Superb. And as part of your framework, what other areas do you see that really kind of need those entrepreneurs, those kind of growth leaders to really focus on?
Yeah, so I guess what I try to do is simplify everything as much as possible. There's so much noise out there. So in order to simplify it, I've created anywhere from 4 to 7 different types of solutions that we can lean into. But the bulk of them is all about setting that vision at the beginning and the strategy and where do we want to go, because that's going to empower the people that are around you. Those are going to help setting that strategy is going to help the next level down within the organization to make an educated guess. Based on the information that they have. Also checking in on the mindset of the team and making sure that there's a good work-life integration that's taking place. I think we're learning that more than ever with COVID. And so, just kind of setting the tone at the beginning is really important. In order to begin to execute that, that's where I use a process called stakeholder-centered coaching. One of the few master coaches that we have in the US that actually has helped leaders create measurable results as recognized by their peers and stakeholders. And so it takes a lot of courage and discipline and humility to be able to put yourself out there as a leader and say, I'm really good at delegating, but I'm going to get better. And when you think of the top artists, the top athletes, the top producers in any industry, they have coaches that help them just take it to the next level. So we have a proven process that works. I've got 100% results getting that executed for the team and to receive the recognition. Right. Two of the other things that we kind of lean on is truly understanding what the struggles are for the client. And when we can figure out what they're struggling with, we can get in front of them before they know they need us. So we can begin to create that education, and you're leading with value versus trying to do a hard sell. Yeah. And then one of the last things that I keep leaning on is just clear communications, and how do we execute clearly and, remove that buyer's remorse, because we clearly can communicate it on the front end of what the expectations are going to be. So that's kind of some high level stuff that we focus on.
Sounds amazing, Catherine, and thank you for sharing that with the audience. And one of the things that always strikes me as being part of the challenge, I think, of sort of the mindset is getting inside those mindsets that won't shift. And particularly, I guess, in a group setting, sometimes there's politics and there's kind of egos and stuff like that involved. How do you puncture that? How do you start to move those around so that actually you can open it up?
I think politics is a big thing. So I've got a couple of different stories. One is in a strategic planning session. Well, it happens anywhere when you think about it. There's always that one voice, that one person that just wants to control everything. And my way of being able to handle that in the past is obviously we take a break, and I kind of have a sidebar with the individual and tell them, I really appreciate them speaking up, but I need to hear from the other folks in the room. And if they could temper it just a little bit for us to be able to get some more thoughts. So that kind of, it was a confrontational conversation if you want it to be, but also very upfront. Everybody's here to contribute, and I really appreciate it, but it's time to shift to some other folks. And then what I also do is work with those quieter folks that are in the room, because they have just as solid ideas as some of the other folks that are more vocal. And during that break, to be able to kind of pull them out a little bit. And if they're not comfortable with talking about their idea, I'll ask for permission to be able to share it as a group and be able to get them recognized. So that's one instance. To shift mindsets, I had another instance where I had a team write down all their excuses of why things wouldn't work. And we took it outside and we burned the paper. And I said, look, we're done. There's no more. Get over it. So we're only going to focus on solutions. So, I guess some of those things are kind of dramatic, but I also kind of think we need to just shift the mind into a new place. And sometimes you have to physically, do something like burn a piece of paper with excuses, or have that quiet conversation on the side with kind of that bully in a room and just say, you're doing great, but I've got to get some other opinions in here.
Yeah, fantastic. And I bet the others in the room, particularly those who probably had those ideas for a long, long, long time, have never been able to get them out, must be absolutely cheering at that point.
Yeah, it's fun. And then if you hear the quiet, I make a point, if you hear the quiet voice and they have a really good idea, but then you have the louder voice that's repeating the idea and owning it themselves, I find it's extremely important to reiterate, okay, it was the quieter person's voice that really spurred this discussion on. So let's celebrate that idea and let's dig into it deeper and then recognize that person. Thank you for having the courage to speak up.
Brilliant. And I'm sure there are people out there who can visualize themselves in that room being one of those particular people, and we'll be getting a lot out of this. So I'm really grateful for you sharing the stories. As I said, we're always very interested in your business as well, and what kind of came to pass with what you're doing. And I wonder, what's the best kind of piece of advice that you've ever received along your journey?
A piece of advice that I got recently from a mentor of mine is to guard your time and to protect your time like it is the only thing that you have. That is the only thing that we all have. And too often there's people that take our time and don't treat it respectfully. And that's something that I'm trying to share with other people and be more conscious of my time allotments. I know that if I don't protect my time in the morning, when I take that reflection and that wellness time for me, the rest of the day, I'm just going to be in a funk, and like, I can't shake it off. But then at the end of the day, I reflect on it and I'm like, because my morning ritual got disturbed, and I should never have taken that text, that phone call, whatever it was for their emergency. And then I went to go handle it, and it weighed me down the rest of the day. So some of the most recent and best advice is definitely just to guard your time.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you. And I think, that the kind of win the morning, win the day idea is one that I think more and more people now are actually really realizing, aren't they? Because, I guess over the pandemic, perhaps people had a bit more time to try and, make the most of it. And actually, if you can bed those time frames in, if you can have that ritual and that routine, then it can really, really drive success during the day, can't it?
Totally. Definitely agree.
Brilliant. And one of the other kind of questions that we tend to ask everybody is whether you've got a kind of inspiration. Is there anybody you sort of look up to and think, that's the kind of person that inspires me?
I have a number of people. I think there's a misconception that we need to have this one person that we need to look up to. And in my mind, I have different people depending upon what it is that I want to accomplish. So I may have one person who is a great mentor and teacher. And so I strive for maybe some of those. I've seen someone be able to start up a business and just really take it into seven figures within a short period of time. So, just kind of watching the business grow, and you're kind of like, oh, that's a process. What are some best practices? I don't want to be that person, but what are some best practices that I can learn from there? There's just different aspects of it, even, parenting and being a better spouse and things like that. There's just different people for different aspects of my life that I look up to. So there's no one in particular. Mm-hmm. And when I'm working with clients, sometimes they feel that they've got to find this one person who they want to emulate. And I think it's extremely important. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become the best version of yourself and take what you can from different people and know that there's no one person that's going to fix it all.
Yeah, fantastic advice. And do you kind of, do you read autobiographies or biographies? Are there things like that, touch points that you will listen to podcasts that have those kind of stories in them?
Yeah, I love Audible. I love podcasts. I love my books. You can't see it, but I have some bookshelves up there of just my favorite books. And I don't think I can get enough information. And so, I'll read 2 or 3 books at a time, and I'll take nuggets from it and try to turn it into materials that we can implement just to be able to dig deeper. I can usually find a connection of whatever the book it is that I'm reading or the podcast that I'm listening to. I can connect that with some work that we're doing with someone else. So it's just an additional layer that we can add in there.
Yeah, brilliant. And thinking about the sort of nuggets side, is there one thing that you wish you had known when you started out that you know now?
One thing I wish I had known. I knew it was going to be hard, and even last night I was talking about it, and I'm okay with it being hard, because if it's not hard, it's not worth getting. I don't know if there's something that I wish I had known. I just knew everything I've ever done has just been they've called me very tenacious over the years, and I wasn't sure if I like that word or not. But the older I get and the more things I try, I'm like, that's not such a bad thing. So I just know that tenacity that I've always had, and that hard work, or that, I just don't want to give up, has been something. And I guess it just creates confirmation. It may not be a new lesson. Yeah, it's going to be hard to start anything, but I love what I'm doing, and I'm happy, and I feel like this is the right thing for me. So.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that tenacity is something that we all have to use to drive and to continue the businesses as we go and build ourselves. Final question: What's kind of next for you? What's your kind of trajectory? Where are you going?
Yeah, so this business vitality framework has popped up just kind of as I reflect on all the work that I've done for the past 20 plus years. So this is some kind of recent, evolution for me to be able to kind of package everything. And then there's something that we've been working on as far as preparing rural communities for future workforce needs. We're beginning to see a lot of people moving from larger cities into rural communities. I live in a rural community, and we have been working on this for probably a year and a half, 2 years, of considering taking an empty storefront in our community and turning it into a business accelerator. And there's different grants that are available to put the seed money in order to get it off the ground. And so we've kind of hit the next round of grants that are out there, and it feels good. I feel like the opportunity is going to happen, and if the timing's right, then it's going to connect and it's going to work. But it took years of this stuff and effort before it's actually going to happen. And so people will probably see the door open and be like, oh, you can just hang a sign. I'm like, there's a lot of coordination and collaboration and support from a lot of people in order to make it work. So, I'm just going to lean into it, and I'm going to see if the opportunities pop up, then I'm just going to take one at a time and see kind of where it takes us. And that's kind of been the secret to a lot of the success that I've been able to have.
Brilliant. And you're so right. When it works, it just looks to everybody else like it's overnight, but it takes a lot of work behind the scenes. So congratulations on all you've done and that which you are to do as well. How can people get in touch with you, Catherine?
Yes, my website is the easiest way. That's CatherineCantey.com. It's with a C. I'm also active on LinkedIn, and you can find me at LinkedIn with my name, Catherine Cantey.
Perfect. We'll make sure those links are available to people listening into the Growth Execution podcast as well. Listen, thank you so much for being such a great guest and sharing your story and your framework as well. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Genuine pleasure. That was Catherine Cantey. And listen, that's the end of this week's Growth Execution podcast. Thanks so much for listening in. We'll be back next week with another great guest to help you to launch, build and grow your business. Until then, have a great growth week, and we will catch up with you then.